Hey my eternal warriors of the joystick realm, today we're diving into the legendary pits of gaming history, where only the bravest pixels survive. We're talking about a game that didn't just set the bar for fighting games, it launched the bar into another dimension where physics are governed by how cool you look swinging a giant sword or wielding a staff. Yes, we're slicing into the heart of Soulcalibur, the game that taught us that the pen might be mightier than the sword, but it's significantly less effective in a fight against a knight in full armor. Get ready to parry, thrust, and maybe learn a thing or two about wearing impractical armor in battle. Let's embark on this journey through time, graphics, and that one friend who always picks Maxi and still doesn't know any combos. In the late 90s, the arcade scene was a battleground where titles vied for players' quarters and attention. Amidst this digital coliseum, Soulcalibur emerged not just as another contender, but as a revolutionizer, courtesy of Namco's Project Soul team. What set Soulcalibur apart wasn't just its weapon-based combat. It was how the game turned technical innovations into an art form, crafting a fighting experience as fluid as it was visually stunning. At the heart of Soulcalibur's development was the ambition to transcend the limitations of its predecessor, Soul Edge. The developers were not content with mere incremental improvements. They aimed to redefine what a 3D fighting game could be. This ambition led them to the then state-of-the-art System 12 hardware, a giant leap from the System 11 used for Soul Edge. This hardware switch facilitated higher polygon counts, allowing for more detailed character models and smoother animations. Imagine going from drawing stick figures to painting the Mona Lisa, but in the realm of video game graphics. The team's dedication to pushing boundaries extended Soulcalibur's gameplay mechanics. The introduction of the 8-way run system allowed players to move their characters with unprecedented freedom, making fights more dynamic and strategic. This was a game changer, literally. For the first time, players could effortlessly circle their opponents, looking for openings or avoiding attacks, adding a new layer of depth to the combat. But technological innovations wasn't without its challenges. The detailed models and fluid animations pushed the hardware to its limits. The developers had to optimize every aspect of the game, from the character models to the environments, ensuring that Soulcalibur could run smoothly without compromising on its ambitious aesthetic. This technical tightrope walk was akin to performing a ballet on a moving train, a feat that showcased the developers' technical prowess and creative ingenuity. When you step into the arena of Soulcalibur, you're not just picking a character, you're choosing a destiny. The game's roster is a motley crew of warriors, each with their own reasons for seeking the Soul Edge, a sword of such evil power that it's basically the universe's worst Swiss Army knife. It does everything from conquering lands to ruining family barbecues. And then there's the Soulcalibur, the sword with a name so nice they named the game after it, positioned as the only force capable of countering the cursed blade's influence. The characters range from the noble, like Siegfried, whose idea of fixing a bad decision is making an even worse one, to the dynamic nightmare, who looks like he's perpetually trying to win a heavy metal costume contest. Each character's storyline adds layers to the overarching narrative, making every battle feel like a clash of titans, or at least a very intense disagreement among armed acquaintances. But Soulcalibur did more than just give players a cast of characters, it gave them a world. Taki, the ninja who's as deadly as she is inexplicably dressed for a completely different climate, is on a mission to destroy the sword that threatens her land. Then there's Voldo, the blind, mute guardian of an Italian weapons cache, who fights like he's part performance artist and part nightmare fuel. The game's narrative depth turned each character from a mere avatar into a story, complete with motivations, rivalries, and the occasional fashion faux pas. The storytelling in Soulcalibur was a bold move in a genre where plots were often an afterthought, relegated to the manual nobody read. The game wove its lore into every aspect, from the stages that hinted at the characters' backstories to the weapons they wielded, each with its own history. This commitment to story added a richness to the game that went beyond the thrill of combat, inviting players to dive deeper into its world. Voice acting in Soulcalibur also deserves a nod. primarily because it ranges from the epic to the hilariously overdone. The English dub, in particular, has some lines delivered with the kind of dramatic flair that Shakespeare would say might be a bit much. It's part of the charm, though, adding a layer of entertainment that continues to amuse players to this day. And let's not forget the localization quirks that led to some memorable mistranslations. These gems added an unintentional layer of humor, proving that sometimes the pen is mightier than the sword, especially when it mistranslates fierce battle into pleasant picnic. Soulcalibur didn't just invite players to a visually stunning brawl, it fundamentally altered how we engage in digital fisticuffs. At the heart of its innovation was a game's combat system, a masterclass in blending accessibility with depth. This was a game that looked at traditional fighting mechanics and said, let's add more dimensions, both literally and figuratively. The introduction of the 8-way run system was a game changer, pun absolutely intended. This mechanic allowed players to move their characters freely around the 3D arena, sidestepping attacks with the grace of a ballerina who could also decapitate you. It was revolutionary, transforming battles into a dynamic dance where positioning and movement were as crucial as the timing of your attacks. Suddenly, you weren't just blocking and countering, you were circling your opponents, looking for an opening, making each duel feel like a scene from a high-stakes martial arts movie. Weapon-based combat was another cornerstone of Soulcalibur's gameplay, giving each character a unique fighting style tied to their weapon of choice. Whether it was Ivy's snake sword, which had more in common with a whip than a traditional blade, or Killick's staff, perfect for those who like to socially distance even in a fight. Weapons were not just tools, but an extension of the characters themselves. This diversity meant that mastering Soulcalibur wasn't just about learning combos, it was about understanding the reach, speed, and rhythm of your chosen warrior's arsenal. The game also struck a delicate balance between offense and defense, a ballet of blades where being too aggressive could quickly lead to your downfall. Guard Impact, a system that allowed players to deflect and counterattacks if timed perfectly, added a layer of strategic depth. It was the ultimate know you move, turning an opponent's aggression into their undoing. This interplay between attacks and defense ensured that battles were not just about those who could hit the hardest, but who could outsmart their opponent in real time. Comparing Soulcalibur to its contemporaries highlights just how far ahead of its time it was. While other fighting games were content with lateral movement, Soulcalibur embraced the Z-axis, adding a layer of complexity and realism to its combat. And while ring outs, knocking your opponent out of the arena, could at times feel like an anticlimactic end to a heated duel, they also added a tactical element to fights, making spatial awareness key. It was like playing chess, but if the pieces could fall off the board at any movement. When Soulcalibur clashed its way onto the scene, it didn't just make waves, it created a tsunami in the gaming industry, reshaping the landscape of fighting games and setting a new standard for what gamers expected from the genre. It shattered expectations, becoming one of the most critically acclaimed and commercially successful titles of its time. It wasn't just a hit, it was a phenomenon. The game's sales were a testament to its appeal, drawing in both hardcore fighting game enthusiasts and newcomers attracted by its accessibility, gameplay, and stunning visuals. It became a must-have title for the Dreamcast, driving console sales and demonstrating the potential of the system as a home for innovative, high-quality gaming experiences. Critically, Soulcalibur was a juggernaut. It received perfect scores from numerous gaming publications, a rarity that underscored its exceptional quality. Reviewers praised its fluid combat, detailed graphics, and the depth of its gameplay, hailing it as a masterpiece of the fighting genre. It wasn't just playing a game, it was witnessing the evolution of gaming in real time. Soulcalibur collected awards like they were going out of style, including Game of the Year accolades, solidifying its legacy as one of the greatest video games ever made. The competitive gaming scene also felt the impact of Soulcalibur. It became a staple of tournaments, drawing players from around the world to compete in high-stakes battles that were as much about strategy and skill as they were about speed and reflexes. The game fostered a community of dedicated players who dissected every aspect of its mechanics, shared strategies, and contributed to the growing esports movement. Soulcalibur wasn't just a game, it was a sport, a challenge that tested both mind and reflexes. Now, as we sheathe our swords and step back from the digital battlegrounds of Soulcalibur, it's clear this wasn't just a game, it was a journey. Soulcalibur proved that with the right mix of style, substance, and a little bit of swinging weaponry, you can create something that lasts longer than the consoles it debuted on. It wasn't just about the battles fought in the arena, it was about the memories created with every clash of swords, every perfectly timed block, and yes, even those infuriating ring outs. So as we bid farewell to this titan of the fighting genre, let's remember, in the realm of Soulcalibur, legends never die. They just wait in the character select screen for the next challenge. If you enjoyed this look back into the history of Soulcalibur, click this video here to see more from the Retro Reload. And as always, thank you for watching.